Hello, and welcome to the Tucson Unified School District's Teacher Evaluation Process Training. At the end of this presentation, you will understand and be able to articulate the basis for, the components of, and your responsibility within the Tucson Unified School District Teacher Evaluation Process. You will also be able to identify the areas of the process that have been revised to meet the criteria set forth in the Unitary Status Plan. Let us take a moment to review what we know about the teacher evaluation process. The objectives of the Teacher Performance Evaluation System are to improve instruction and maintain instructional strengths. The measure of a teacher's performance is rooted in the classroom observation. The criterion of classroom observations are outlined in State Statute 15537. A teacher will be observed at least once a school year. Observations encompass a complete, uninterrupted lesson. The 60 calendar days between the first and last observations are actual calendar days which include weekends and holidays. A teacher may be observed multiple times a year, but there shall be at least 60 calendar days between the first and the last observation. And as with current practice, written feedback shall be provided to the teacher within 10 business days. Business days are defined as a teacher workday. The joint Tucson Unified School District and Tucson Education Association Evaluation Committee met during spring 2015 to modify the evaluation process to meet the criteria outlined in the Unitary Status Plan. Looking at the first USP criteria, teacher efforts to include, engage, and support students from diverse racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds using cultural responsive pedagogy. Working with national experts, the Joint Committee revised all Level 3, Proficient, and Level 4 distinguished rating of all 22 components of the Danielson framework. You will also see some revisions within the critical attributes in each component. For example, in Component 1B, Demonstrating Knowledge of Students, you will see revisions that include: teacher must also understand the research in the social and cultural context of teaching and learning that confirms that student learning is influenced by issues such as culture, race, ethnicity, gender, and social class. What does this mean? This means as a teacher, we must be cognizant of all aspects of our students and utilize that knowledge when planning lessons. As we know, the execution of an effective lesson begins with good planning. To receive a Level 4 rating in Component 1B, a teacher must actively seek and acquire information about all their students. The teacher is systemic in gathering knowledge. For example, student interest inventory, conferencing with parents, and a class profile sheet, just to name a few. The revisions make the language more explicit within the rubric. As we turn to 1F assessment, we see in the highlighted areas that a teacher must also be mindful to address and close the achievement gap of his or her students from diverse, racial, ethnic, and language groups. Achievement data and how a teacher uses assessment data to modify instruction in order to close the achievement gap is more explicit in the framework. Analyzing data is the basis for effective professional learning communities. Let's take a moment to look at the heart of the framework. 3C, Engaging Students in Learning. The first sentence of this Level 4 rating sets the tone. Virtually all students are intellectually engaged in challenging culturally relevant content. Not only are students engaged intellectually, but with culturally relevant content. This means teachers bring multiple perspectives into the content, which allows students from various backgrounds and cultures to connect to the content. Culture may also refer to the culture of the school, the neighborhood, and Tucson. When looking at groupings, the last sentence, groupings are flexible with specific purposes. Groups should not stay stagnant. The goal is for every teacher to be rated at a Level 3 Proficient. We want to live in Proficient and visit Distinguished. Again, the goal is to earn and maintain a Level 3 rating. Academic growth will be determined by calculating the growth of state standardized scores in English Language Arts, ELA, and Math for grades 3 through 11 from one year to the next. This approach, however, has some limitations in that the state standardized tests in ELA and math can measure the academic impact of only about a quarter of our teachers, called A teachers. The non-ELA and non-math teachers, called B teachers, make up the other 3/4 of the teaching core. Who will take the assessment? All students in grades K through 2 will take the DIBELS or DRA assessment. In grades 3 through 11, students will take the AZ Merit State tests in ELA and math. When will the assessment be administered? DIBELS, or another literacy tool, is administered 3 times a year. The first test in the fall and the last test in the spring will be used. DRA is administered twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. AZ Merit is administered in the spring each year. Scoring. AZ Merit scores used are from last year's 17-18 school year. These scores are compared to AZ Merit scores from the 16-17 school year with a matched cohort so that students are compared against their own scores to measure growth. If a teacher changes schools in the 18-19 school year, his or her academic growth score is still attached to where she or he taught the year before. For example, if a social studies teacher taught at Gridley in 17-18 and then changed to teach social studies at Valencia for the 18-19 school year, that teacher would receive still the school average for Gridley as his or her academic growth score for the 18-19 school year. Teachers who teach at multiple schools will be assigned the district academic growth average. For school year 2018-19, student growth will be assessed on matched students by determining the difference between grades K through 2. The DIBELS and DRA scores are compared from the beginning of the year 18-19 to the end of the year 18-19. Grade 3, the Arizona Merit 2017-18 scores are compared to the 16-17 composite school city benchmark, a combined score from fall and spring from 2nd grade. Grades 4 through 11, AZ Merit 17-18 scores are compared to the AZ Merit 16-17 scores. The following 3 slides will help you determine whether you are an A or a B teacher in TUSD. An A teacher is any K through 2 teacher with fall and spring DIBELS or DRA scores. Grades K through 2 will use the DIBELS, DRA, or some other assessment to compare the fall results to the spring results. An A teacher is also any teacher who teaches math or ELA in grades 3 through 11. Elementary teachers in grades 3 through 5 are A teachers because they teach both math and ELA. All math and ELA teachers in grades 6 through 11 are A teachers. ELA, grades 3 through 8 and ELA 9 through 11 are used because they are assessed by AZ Merit. Math, grades 3 through 8 and Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 are used because they are assessed by AZ Merit. A B teacher is any teacher who is not an A teacher. For example, if you are a 6th grade science teacher, you are considered a B teacher. If you are a 12th grade AP chemistry teacher, you are considered a B teacher. The B teachers will be assigned growth points based on the school or the district average. The growth points for the teacher evaluation is divided into 5 categories. Teachers will be assigned points based on student growth. 1, which is low growth or a total of 11 points. 1.5, which is below average growth or a total of 16.5 points or rounded up to 17 points. 2, which is average growth or a total of 22 points. 2.5, which is above average growth or a total of 27.5 points or rounded up to 28 points. 3, which is high growth or a total of 33 points. The minimum amount of points an individual can receive is 11 points. The growth points will be added to the teacher evaluation points total. A teacher points are calculated based on the role the teacher has in the school. For A teachers with 15 students or more with 2 years of AZ Merit data will receive their own score. Grades K through 2 scores are for ELA only. Grades 3 through 5 scores are the average of the ELA and math scores per teacher. Grades 6 through 11 scores are from the subject, ELA or math, specific to that teacher. For A teachers in grades 3 through 11 with fewer than 15 students with 2 years of AZ Merit data, or SC-BM for 2nd grade, will receive the school subject mean in which they teach. For A, teachers in grades K through 2 with fewer than 15 students with fall and spring DIBELS or DRA scores will receive the DIBELS DRA ELA mean. B teacher points are calculated based on the role the teacher has in the school. For B, teachers who support math, such as math interventionists, AP calculus teacher, etc., will receive the school math mean. For B, teachers who support ELA, such as literacy specialists, AP English literature, etc., will receive the school ELA mean. For B, teachers who do not support ELA or math, such as PE teacher, art teacher, science teacher, etc., will get the school mean, which is a combination of the math and ELA mean. The student surveys will remain as a component of the teacher evaluation. The 3 student surveys are grades K through 2, grades 3 through 5, and grades 6 through 12. Using the tripod study from Harvard University as the conceptual foundation, these surveys measure 7 classroom climate constructs, including care, challenge, control, clarify, captivate, confer, and consolidate. Each survey has a different number of total questions. The K through 2 survey has 10 questions. The 3 through 5 survey has 20 questions, and the 6 through 12 survey has 25 questions. Each of these 3 surveys is scored on the 4-point Likert scale. 1 equals strongly disagree, 2 equals disagree, 3 equals agree, 4 equals strongly agree. Responses on the Likert scale are averaged and result in an overall score that ranges from 1.0 to 4.0. So, regardless of the grade level and or number of questions, the score will be the average number from the responses. The results of the survey will count for 10% of the teacher's overall calculation. The data and the process of the teacher evaluation was reviewed by the joint TUSD and TEA Evaluation Committee in spring and summer 2016 to make any adjustments to the weighting of the components or any other part of the evaluation process. The 4 performance classifications outlined by the Arizona School Board of Education are highly effective, effective, developing, ineffective. A performance classification is determined by factoring in teachers' performance as measured by the TUSD Modified 2013 Danielson Framework for Teaching, the blue section of this diagram. Student academic growth data is reflected by the red section, student survey data by the green section, and a teacher self-review by the purple section. The calculation of the 4 components will determine a teacher's final classification. Here's an example of how the final classification will be determined. Your score from the TUSD Modified 2013 Danielson Framework will be multiplied by 0.636 to reach the desired point weight. Student academic growth data will be multiplied by 11 to reach the desired point weight. Student survey will be multiplied by 2.5 to reach the desired point weight. Teacher self-review is worth 1 point. As a teacher, you will be able to determine where you stand as you progress through the evaluation process. Let us walk through an example that shows the maximum allowable points. A teacher is rated all 4s on the TUSD 2013 Modified Danielson Framework for a beginning total of 88. This total is multiplied by 0.636, which arrives at the actual score of 56. You will follow the same process for each component in the table above. As mentioned previously, the data and the process of the teacher evaluation was reviewed by the joint TUSD and TEA Evaluation Committee in spring and summer 2017 to make any adjustments to the weighting of the components or any other part of the evaluation process. The joint Tucson Unified School District and Tucson Education Association Committee determined the cut scores needed to be adjusted to take into account the student survey of teachers component and to keep the TUSD Modified Danielson Framework for Teaching in the forefront. The cut scores are 79 to 100 points equals highly effective, 61 to 78 points equals effective, 47 to 60 points equals developing, and scores of 46 or less is rated as ineffective. This is the 2013 Danielson Framework for Teaching Smart Card. As you can see, there are components for each of the domains. Let's take a look at one of the components. Domain 1, Planning and Preparation Component 1C. Setting instructional outcomes refers to the learning objective for a lesson. Referring back to our essential elements of instruction, EEI training, an objective is a description of the student at the end of the lesson. Objective equals change or motion toward a goal. The two-part objective has a behavior and a learning. The four-part objectives have the behavior and learning and also includes condition and performance level. Referring to Curriculum 3.0 for English, Language Arts, and Math, you will notice we have provided the beginning of lesson objective, the learning portion. You, the teacher, will still need to add the behavior portion to the objective. A major focus of the Joint Committee was to have a process that focused on the growth and support of teachers through a coaching collaborative model. The next section of the training will focus on the process. Through the process, you will be able to see the many opportunities for meaningful and purposeful dialogue to occur between teacher and evaluator. You are currently attending the evaluation orientation training, which is explaining the evaluation process and the tool for which you will be evaluated. We will highlight the important dates and deadlines within the evaluation process. By the end of the first quarter, the teacher and the evaluator will meet to discuss the evaluation process. Discussion must be about the teacher's goals and objectives for the classroom and school, such as measurable targets, standards for performance, pertinent student academic progress data, the analysis of parent and student survey data, and previous evaluation results. This information will be pertinent when initiating the individual learning plan. At this conference, the first observation is scheduled. The beginning of the year conference may also serve as the pre-conference. The teacher will turn in the lesson to be observed at least 48 hours prior to the scheduled observation date. It is important to consider the context in which the evaluation occurs. The experience level of the teacher should be taken into consideration. The performance of a novice teacher, a teacher new to the profession with less than 3 years of experience, is likely to be different from that of a more experienced teacher, a teacher with 3 or more years of experience, or a reassigned teacher, a teacher who has been newly assigned to a grade, a content area, or a school. Discussion of context should occur in the first conference. The descriptions of the performance classification levels should be reviewed and discussed based on the goals being set during this conference. During this initial conference, the evaluator and the teacher will review the teaching practices identified in the Danielson domains. It is suggested that the components associated with each Danielson domain be reviewed and discussed. The evaluator and teacher should be clear as to the expectations in each domain. After the beginning of the year conference, the evaluator should begin to score Domain 1. Domain 1 is continuously scored throughout the evaluation process. The teacher must complete their self-review by December 1st, and all teachers must be observed by December 1st. Written feedback and conference must be completed within 10 days of the observation. During the post-observation conference, the teacher should be prepared to reflect on the observed lesson. The teacher may provide additional evidence to support their performance. The evaluator should be prepared to discuss the observed lesson and any other data collected via walkthrough conversations and any data that might impact the level of rating assigned to each component. When determining the ratings for the components of Domain 2 and Domain 3, all data gathered to this point will be analyzed to determine the rating. The rating considers the consistency and maintenance of high-quality instruction throughout the school year, not just the formal observation. The evaluator should begin to score Domain 4 after the post-conference. Domain 4 is continuously scored throughout the evaluation process. Preliminary scoring of Domains 1 and 4 allows the teacher to decide whether to request a second or subsequent observation. Step 5 of the process determines whether a second observation is needed. If a teacher scores 30 points or more on Domains 2 and 3, a second observation is not required unless requested by the teacher. Step 5A states, if a teacher scores 29 points or less on Domains 2 and 3, a second observation is required. In the case of a second or subsequent observation, the cycle begins again with a pre-conference, an observation, and a post-conference. Again, preliminary scoring of domains 1 and 4 allows the teacher to decide whether to request a second or subsequent observation. All second or subsequent observations must be completed by May 1st. The summative evaluation must be completed and reviewed with the teacher and signed by May 15th. As you can see, there are many steps involved with the evaluation process. Both the evaluator and the teacher contribute to the process. For the school year 2018-2019, we will continue to use our online evaluation management platform called My Learning Plan. Tucson Unified School District is continuing on this incredible journey to enhance and improve teaching performance and address the needs of our students. Tucson Unified School District and the Tucson Education Association, teachers and administrators, teachers and teachers, teachers and students, together we can deliver excellence in education every day.